Let me tell you something. You ever have one of those days where a single, stupid misunderstanding flips your whole world upside down? Yeah, that was me, Sarah Mitchell, the day two police officers slapped the cuffs on me like I was some kind of career criminal. And you know what's wild? It all started in a grocery store parking lot, on a morning I'd hoped would be as plain as any other. Instead, I got to experience the full humiliation of cold steel biting into my wrists while Officer Johnson, who looked barely old enough to shave, leaned in and muttered to his buddy, "This one's dangerous, Sergeant. Look at those eyes. Probably some crazy veteran." I didn't bother answering. 15 years in the Navy had taught me that not every battle was worth fighting, at least not with words. But if you've ever felt a white-hot flame of indignation simmering under the surface while you're forced to bite your tongue, you know exactly how I felt. That day, I'd done what anyone with a shred of decency might do. I saw two guys hassling an old woman for her purse, stepped in, handled it quietly. No one got hurt, the punks ran for it, and the lady was safe. When the police rolled up, I figured I'd give my statement and be on my way, right? Wrong. One of those guys pointed at me, shouting, "She's with us." And just like that, I became the dangerous accomplice while the real thieves strolled off scot-free because their stories didn't quite match up. You know what I mean? Inside the station, the desk officer couldn't even bother to look me in the eye as he took my info. Full name, Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Occupation, auto mechanic. I left out the Navy, the deployments, all those years I spent in the dirt and dust overseas. Trust me, that never helped in situations like this. People just start seeing you as more of a problem, not less. Then came Deputy Adams swaggering in like he owned the place, with that smile people get when they enjoy their little bit of power a bit too much. "So, you're the heroine, huh?" he sneered. "Let me guess, traumatized vet. Looking for a fight?" His tone was thick with sarcasm, the kind you hear from people who don't really know what sacrifice looks like. "I was just helping someone who needed it, sir." He snorted, leafing through my file. Vehicle maintenance. Interesting line of work for a hero. Here's what he didn't know. Those hands he scoffed at, the ones blackened with grease, had once cradled a rifle steadier than his own nerves. I'd been a sniper, one of the best, and I'd saved more lives than I could count, but I'd also learned the hard way that most folks aren't interested in the real story behind your scars. Better to let them underestimate you. "You'll be staying here," Adams said, all smug. "And between you and me, things don't look too good for you." As they led me to the cell, I caught a glimpse of a photo on his desk, him shaking hands with city officials, a Morrison and Associates construction banner in the background. I knew that company had fired 3 mechanics, all vets, last month. Budget cuts, they said. I didn't buy it. I tucked that detail away. That cell was nothing to me. I've slept under open skies in Iraq, the ground shaking from mortars. The damp stink and distant shouting of drunks barely registered. But I didn't sleep. I replayed every detail of the construction company, the fired vets, how quickly those 2 punks had been released. Patterns, you see, have a way of emerging when you've spent a career spotting threats. Next morning, they said I had a visitor. In walked Marcus Chun, clean-cut and quiet, but without alertness you only get in the military. Sergeant Chun, retired Marines. Now a lawyer. Heard about your case on the Veterans Network. I studied him, curious. How do you know I served? Posture. And I made a few calls. He flipped open a folder. 15 years Navy. Special Ops. Funny how that didn't make it into your record. I shrugged. It never helps. Marcus just nodded. Maybe it's time to change that. I dug into Adams for you. He's got a thing for targeting vets, especially ones who cross as business friends. Morrison Construction? That's just the tip. At least 6 vets have ended up behind bars under suspicious circumstances. You're not his first rodeo. I'll admit, I was rattled. I'd seen corruption before, but something about this was bigger, more organized. Later that day, the old lady I'd helped, Eleanor Washington, showed up with her daughters. She squeezed my hand with surprising strength. "You saved me. And my daughter works at City Hall. We know Adam's reputation. You're not alone." She slid me a slip of paper with phone numbers, her eyes daring me to fight back. That night, instead of calling family, I dialed a number I'd committed to memory a decade ago. General Hayes, I said when a line connected. It's Sarah Mitchell. Operation Silent Strike. A long pause, then a warm, commanding voice. Where the hell have you been? I explained the mess. Could practically feel her anger building. Adams has no idea who he's dealing with, she growled. You get evidence. I'll make sure you get support. The next day, Adams was sweating. A mysterious call from the Pentagon had rattled his cage. What game are you playing? He barked. Who do you know? I just smiled. Maybe you should have done your homework, sir. Sometimes, things aren't what they seem. That night, Adams stomped in with a fresh burst of bravado. You're staying in that cell until I figure this out, and I will. But he had no clue. I'd mapped out allies, figured out weaknesses, and now I had the general herself in my corner. The final straw came the following Monday. Adams marched in, barking orders she wanted to push me to the state pen, stack up more charges, anything to make me go away. He must have thought no one would care about a mechanic. At 10:47 a.m., 3 black cars and an army van rolled up. General Hayes herself strode in, all 4 stars gleaming, flanked by colonels and a press officer. The air in that station changed. Fast. Where's Sheriff Adams? She asked, voice like a gavel. He stammered. Sergeant Mitchell is coming with me. He tried to bluster. She's just a mechanic. The general cut him off. Staff Sergeant Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell. Medal of Honor. Silver Star. Purple Heart. 15-year Navy vet. Adams looked like he'd been gut-punched. Eleanor Washington and Marcus Chun entered, too, with a local TV reporter trailing. We have your calls to the Pentagon, Marcus said cheerfully. Eleanor dropped the hammer. I recorded your conversation about favors for your business pals. My daughter works at City Hall. We've known for years. A colonel handed Adams a folder bank records, calls, a full list of every veteran he'd targeted. How did you get this? He whispered, face drained of all color. I was brought out, and, for the first time, people looked at me like they saw more than a problem to solve. General Hayes apologized on behalf of every service member who'd ever been railroaded, but I told her, you don't owe me an apology, Adams does. Not just to me, but to every vet he's ever used for his own gain. Marcus handed Adams a lawsuit and lawful arrest, defamation, civil rights violations. $3 million to start. Adams sputtered. It was all a misunderstanding. Eleanor laughed, son. I've seen a lot of corrupt sheriffs. You're not just incompetent, you're malicious. Cameras rolled. Adams looked small, defeated. In the end, I didn't want revenge, I wanted justice. The cuffs that had bruised my wrists now snapped around his. 6 months later, I stood on a stage at the National Veterans Convention, holding the Civil Courage Award as 5,000 veterans gave me a standing ovation. What started as a dirty jail cell ended up exposing a whole system, 12 people arrested, millions in compensation for wronged vets, a construction company in bankruptcy, and a corrupt sheriff rotting in prison, his reputation destroyed, his family gone. Eleanor's foundation helped hundreds of vets fight for their rights. My own workshop grew into a center for training and employing Veterans Mitchell Veterans Enterprises, a $2 million a year operation that gave second chances to dozens of folks like me. Laws changed across the country. Suddenly, veterans had protections they'd never had before. My name was tossed around for the Senate, but I always said politicians make laws, but I'd rather change lives one at a time. Behind the scenes, I'd spent years documenting discrimination, building networks, planning for the day I'd have to fight back. I never wanted this spotlight, but if I had to use it, it'd be for something bigger than myself. As I told those gathered that didn't chase revenge, chase justice. It protects everyone who comes after you. And somewhere, watching from his prison cell, Adams finally realized what he'd done. He hadn't underestimated a mechanic. He'd underestimated the discipline, loyalty, and fire of an entire community. That's the real lesson. Never assume you know someone's story or how many people stand ready to fight for them. My workshop now buzzes with second chances, 43 vets building lives worth living. On the wall, a photo of me and the general, medals glinting, is a reminder heroes aren't born in uniforms, but in the choices they make when it matters. So when the world tries to tear you down, don't just survive, build something so strong they can never tear it down again. And if you've got thoughts about justice, redemption, or what it really means to serve, drop your comments below. Because the line between right and wrong is never as simple as it seems. And it's up to us to keep the conversation alive.